NHL, Vegas got game one, to the surprise of probably you two, not myself. But then game two was just cinema. And it looked like they were going to go up 2-0. And then, uh,
Won, Wesley.
Yeah, who
what?
won?
Who
I
won?
wasn't okay. That sounded a little more trash talky than I intended it. But no, I mean, I'm saying I think most people were on the Canes in game one, and Vegas went in there and made it look like they're going to go up 2-0, and then a really huge comeback for Carolina there in the third and overtime in game two.
Yeah,
I,
I
w- I want
mean,
to I want to just talk about Seth Jarvis. It seems like every time they need a moment, it's Seth Jarvis out of all people. It's like, great for him, but like there's so many different guys that could be on that roster, and he just always finds a way to be the big guy in the big moment, and it's super cool to see. It really is.
100%. And these,
Yeah.
they were talking about it on the broadcast right before that overtime goal, that game winner happened in game two. But they were talking about it. They were saying, like, you know, he's been kind of struggling. Him and Sebastian Aho both been kind of struggling this series. And I mean, this playoffs rather in general. And I remember the call on the goal was Seth Jarvis quiets the critics, and the Canes
Hmm.
take game two. Right? It's a good call.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, I totally agree. It is. It's such a hard sport. Like, and it is. Those guys are too good to stay quiet for that long. Both Seth Jarvis and Sebastian Aho. Aho had a goal, a big goal. I believe it was game seven of the no, not game seven. What am I saying? Who he had a big goal against? Oh my God, who did Carolina just play?
Montreal.
Yeah, I think he had a big goal in that Montreal game where they eliminated them, or it was in game one of Vegas. Beside the point. Anyway, that game was great. Carter Hart was lights out through the first two periods, but props to Carolina. They say the two-goal lead in hockey is the worst lead for a reason, because you don't feel safe enough that you can let your foot off the gas, but it's still close enough for other team that's still within reach. And Carolina really took advantage of that. And I think Vegas made some mistakes down the stretch, but good on Carolina. You kind of needed it, in my opinion. So series tied up, going back or going to Vegas now. So Wesley, you're muted.
Wesley, your mic's off, man.
Whoops. Vegas's challenge on that goal call where Carolina
Yeah.
tied the game, or no, where Vegas almost took the lead and they said no goal.
Mhm.
I think it's probably the correct call, but it's so dumb to me that losing a challenge is a penalty. I just, especially in the Stanley Cup Finals, like you should want to get every call right and not
Yeah.
punish a team for wanting to take a look at what could be the go-ahead goal in the third period of a Stanley Cup Finals game.
I
Yeah.
think that'll be a good sign for the NHL to review that rule and be like, hey, this should probably be changed because they're kind of behind the times on that. If you look at really any other major sports league, the challenge is just, goes by the wayside because they want to be right and they want to be accurate because, you don't want refs deciding a game. That's never what you want as a fan, as a player, as a coach, as anything, even a ref. You don't want the refs being the focal point of the game. And they're not exactly the focal point in that situation. That's just kind of how the rule book is. But I think the league will look at that instance in one of the biggest games of the year and say, "Hey, it's time to make a change here." So, did it help my prediction? Yes, but is it the way you want to see that go down? Not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of take a different point of view from than both of you. So I they implemented this rule a couple years ago, and it makes sense to me because there's not really timeouts in hockey. There's one a game, but
Mhm.
very rarely, like, they're not really that important. If you ask me, the timeout in hockey is very, very minimal and not that important. Doesn't get used a ton. Really only gets used at the end of games, towards when you pull a goalie. But anyway, to me, I don't know. To me, it makes sense because it adds an extra element of strategy. I agree that it is, kind of a big punishment for just getting a challenge wrong. Like I there should be an alternative, but I still don't dislike how it is right now. I can see why people do for sure. But in terms of this situation too, I think it's a bad challenge by Tortorella. I do. Like it is one of those things that I believe it was Barbashev on the Vegas Golden Knights. I might be wrong about that, but Barbashev hit into the glove, like was poking, moving the goalie, and then the puck went in the net. Like it's one of those things that it's so unlikely to get that call overturned. And at that point in the game, too, the game was tied. Like I get it. Like if it is a goal, you take the lead, but it feels like one of those things that was kind of a stupid and like rogue challenge. Like you didn't need to challenge that. I think the refs got it right, but I mean, kind of changed the game. Of course, then Vegas tied it, 3 minutes later with Mark Stone goal with the empty net. But I don't know. I could go either way, but I think in this case, the refs did get the call right.
I think I can see where he's coming from with the challenge just because Carolina had been terrible on the power play and Vegas had been good on the
Mhm.
penalty kill. And so you're like, I feel pretty good about our chances to kill this penalty. So if there's any
True.
shot the goal is good, then I want to look at it. But I think there just wasn't any. Like I was, even as somebody who doesn't know hockey rules very well, I'm watching the replay and I'm like, there's no way they're going to overturn the call on the ice there.
Well, I mean,
I
like
agree.
you don't even have to watch hockey. It just looked awkward. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it looked like a play that just doesn't see. It just didn't feel right. And like, you
yeah,
don't have to be like an aficionado of the sport to realize like you can't do that. Like, that's
yeah,
just not how the game was intended to be played. So
yeah.
I'm
A
kind of with
hundred
Xavier
percent.
on this one. I feel like that challenge, you can put that in your back pocket because it feels like that's just the way it's gonna be because it just looked so janky, especially on replay. Like once you took a look at it, it's just like there's just no way that should count, and it
And
didn't.
I mean, could it have been a little bit of an emotion infused decision because it kind of felt like a desperate time where you were up 2-0 with like 9 minutes left and all of a sudden it's tied. And you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like maybe they wanted that goal really badly because they just felt kind of desperate after giving up the lead on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's definitely a good point. Like it kind of was one of those things that might have been an emotional kind of challenge because they just gave up two straight to the best team in the league all year, one of the best teams in the league all year. But I mean, to your point about Vegas being really good on the power kill and all that, so them leading to them taking the chance, I think it's a good one. I believe Tortorella said after the game that he was said something along the lines of that, oh, Carolina hadn't been good on the power play and, we had been good on the kill. So I liked our odds. But at the same time, with 5 minutes left in the game and, and it's a 2-2 game, like it still seems like just kind of an unnecessary challenge. You didn't need to do it. Like it
I mean,
feels
I guess
too, yeah.
I feel like you could boil it down to a pretty simple question of are the odds greater that you win the you win the challenge or that you get or that they score on the power play. And even with a team that's bad on the power play, like there was like a 5% chance that call is going to be overturned. So like I feel like it still isn't.
I agree.
One
But
minute.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of been our motto on this show, but especially around the NHL. But that Carolina team is, I don't know, they have too many stars. They have too many talented players to go cold forever on the power play. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't going to happen. Like, they were, I don't remember the exact number, but they, were cold for sure. And then, of course, the final two goals of the game, but, the game, at the time, the one that gave them the lead and then the one that won them the game in overtime were both on the power play, right? So I don't know. Like I see both sides. It is a really interesting dilemma because I mean, it did like that was probably the turning point in the game in my mind. Even if Vegas tied it, that's where all the momentum kind of went to Carolina.
Yeah, I totally echo what you're saying. It's just like they've got too many guys.
Yeah.
Like it felt like it was going to break through at some point, and that was like the worst possible time for it to break through if you're a Golden Knights fan.
And how about
Yeah.
just the clutch factor there of them being so cold in the power play and then going 2 for 2 to win the game
Mm.
on those last two power plays?